common theme we find in sci-fi, especially in the modern era, is what it means to be human. When we look at things like androids, or we look at robotic bodies, how much of a cybernetic body is considered part human, and what part is actually life, what part is just mimicking it. And these are the type of topics that's covered here in Terminal Protocol. Now, this is from Scout Comics, and it's probably off the radar of everybody watching this video. But I want to let you know, I read through this book, and even though the topics of androids and cybernetics is not exactly new to science fiction, this handles the story very well. In fact, it's one of those things, when I got done reading it, I felt like I'd watched a full-length movie. While this may not be the book that you're going to look for when you go on the stands, it's actually worth taking a look at if your store happens to carry it, or if you're willing to go out of your comfort zone and order something a little different. It's great sci-fi, the artwork is very nice, it's handled very well, and it's definitely something that's worth checking out. Breaking new ground on the crossover front. We've got two teams of Marvel heroes that don't see eye to eye, and a misunderstanding has caused them to butt heads. I mean, hey, it's not the most original thing in the world, but at least this crossover is entertaining. In this issue, we finally get to see what Mosaic is all about, and we see why Medusa is the queen, and we see a revelation brought to the team that even though we knew about, some of the characters didn't. And for them, it's a game changer. Is this the greatest book on the stands? No, of course not. But it's entertaining. There's actually some very funny moments in here. It's heartfelt in places. It actually does a lot right. So, while it's not the most exciting, massive, greatest crossover event in the history of all of Marvel Comics, very few of those are. This, though, it's a lot of fun, and it's definitely worth reading. Justice League vs. Suicide Squad may have done a lot right. It turned out to be a great fun ride. So Justice League of America spinning out of that series seems like it should be a good fit for the new DC universe. It has a great pedigree behind it. Unfortunately, this Rebirth special just kind of fizzles out. Now granted, it's a Rebirth special. I mean, it's not really going to stand up to some of the greatest stories out there. But all it really does is tell you the story of Batman grabbing a bunch of people and throwing them together on a team. And speaking of that team, he says one of the things about this team is that it's not filled with gods, it's filled with regular people. Regular people like Lobo, with Vixen, who gets animal powers, with Black Canary, who can scream and make a car explode. I mean, it doesn't really live up to the mission statement it set out for itself. It does fall on its face in a couple spots, but at least it's somewhat entertaining. The character dynamics look like there could be something fun there, and it might have a positive outlook for the future. As for right now, I'm still cautiously optimistic. I really have to give a lot of credit to Joshua Williamson. He's making The Flash into a great series. Now, Flash has had some really brilliant moments over the past, say, 10 years, with a lot of different writers taking control of the book. While each one has their own little way of doing things, he's doing a fantastic job of continuing to world build for Flash, even for people who've been reading for a long time. So even if you know the Rogues and you're familiar with them, you're going to find some new stuff in here. And if you've never read it before and you aren't familiar with them, then you're going to have a great story at your fingertips. One of the nice things he does with this book is play with your expectations. He builds things up just to drop them back down, just to swerve you at the last moment and build them up again. So just when you think you know what's going to happen in the story, it punches you in the face and gives you something completely different. And the artwork in this book is incredible. From the illustrations to the coloring, you can't beat this title. Subplots, kids. Subplots. Now, I know I've done this song and dance before, so is there anything else I can say about Action besides just building up the fact that it does this great thing with stories where it takes the small subplots and brings them to the front to give you a new story while other stuff is building in the background? Well, I probably can. One of the great things about this book is that while the Superman book is focusing more on Clark and Lois and his son, Action does a good job of talking about all the other characters that are part of the Superman mythos. So as you can see, you've got Superwoman in Steel on here. You see some Jimmy Olsen, you see some Perry White, and you see some Clark Kent. Remember that? There's another Clark Kent here. We see a lot of stuff happening at the Daily Planet. We just see a lot of Metropolis in this book, which is a lot of fun. You really feel like there's a whole living world that's being brought to you within this book. So yes, subplots are great. So is the rest of the book. Like many others, I abandoned the Spider-Man franchise after all the madness of the last 10 years. The one more day, the one moment in time, the brand new day, all of that thrown out the window. I didn't care anymore. And this is the cure for what ails you. Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows is the alternate universe where Peter and Mary Jane not only never broke up, but they also had a daughter, Annie, and she now has spider powers. In this issue, we see them taking on Mole Man. There are leftover parts from Regent, the guy who was stealing all the superpowers and making himself super strong. Mole Man has found some of that technology, but of course there's an Osborn waiting in the wings. It's a great story. It's good for the whole family. This is a book that my son can read and I can read and we can talk about it. It's great for the entire family because it's about a family. So if you want to see Peter back when he was like at his best, married to Mary Jane, raising a daughter and doing all the great things that Peter's supposed to be doing, dump your Amazing Spider-Man and make sure you renew your vows. Great story, great artwork, and it's definitely one that's not to be missed. Tom Taylor's become somewhat of an expert when it comes to telling parallel universe stories in the DC mythos, and this book does not disappoint. Bringing in the Power Rangers just feels right under his control. And not only does he do the Power Rangers well, he does the Justice League well, and he does the villains fantastically. We finally find DC's counterpoint to Lord Zed. We also find out why nobody trusts the Justice League the first time they see them, and all these great battles ensue. Turns out it's Batman's fault. Anyway, it's a fun story, it's got good artwork, and I'm pretty sure this is going to please fans of both Power Rangers and Justice League. Unlike the He-Man Thundercats that's going on, I think Tom Taylor does a pretty good job of understanding what's going to work and what's not, and what's best to just not talk about and just accept the fact that, yeah, they've got giant robots, they look like dinosaurs, there's not a whole lot you can do about it. So, definitely check this one out.